Here's how you finally get good at Pokemon Unite. I make a ton of videos about how to play better. I make a lot of tier lists. I'll show you a match, and even in the matches I show, I try to bring you a tip or a trick that will help you in your gameplay. And I asked you, the community, for what actually changed for you. What got you better at this game? And there are a few answers that keep popping up, so I wanted to bring those to you right now. This is how to actually get good in Pokemon Unite. Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, and thank you to everyone who has submitted an answer. I really appreciate it. There's been some interesting insight. A lot of these I expected, and a few of these I did not. Let's go. But before we jump into it, a quick word from this video's sponsor. This video is sponsored by G Fuel. Whoa! I'm sure you've heard of G Fuel. It is an energy formula that gets you ready to game for long stretches of time, like me when I am streaming. I'm holding Shiny Splash right here, compliments of A Drive and G Fuel. If you want to pick up some G Fuel, use my link in the description below. You get 20% off. If you haven't tried it, it's a great time to check it out. And yes, this is an energy formula, so it is not for people under 18. You don't need it anyway. You've got like 50 times the energy I do, even when I've got my G Fuel. On to the video. This one from Twice Is My Life. Understanding that you fulfilling your duties as a support main won't always lead to wins, but just by helping your team, you can still be recognized for it, and it's what drives me to keep playing supports. I think that wins playing as a supporter feels so much better seeing the rest of your team succeed thanks to the CC or healing that you apply. This one I feel like falls into this category of doing your job. I talk about this a lot, like defenders need to defend, supporters need to support. I know everyone wants to play Cinderace, but you need people who play these roles. And when you do it well, you will feel very satisfied with your gameplay. If you watched my video on my run to Master Rank with only supporters with EXP share and stuff, we had a crazy good win rate and amazing games. So yes, I totally agree. Play your role, do your job. From Fun Stuff JX3 FM, I'd probably still be playing badly if it wasn't for your videos. Very kind, I appreciate it. I do make content so that you will enjoy your time with Pokemon Unite better, whether that's like through playing better or finding modes you enjoy, finding builds that are actually really fun to play rather than just this is the best thing ever. Sometimes I like builds that are just fun and enjoyable, and this falls into a category of content is very, very helpful, and watching people play. There are a few of these I had people talk about. You know what? Let me pull a couple up because they're fun. Luan said, I started watching Olivotech. With his videos, I learned about the meta, build, strategies. I'm not a pro, but my gameplay and win rate are better now. From 3rd of 12, I've watched more videos on how to make good plays from your channel and from Chris Heroes. Shout out to Chris. Thank you very much. Also, I definitely invested more time in learning how each Pokemon works. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Leonardo said, I've been playing since mobile launch and I reached veteran and stopped facing bots. I struggled a lot until I found Baby Mazo, the Brazilian professional player who was at World's YouTube channel. When he played at Overheat, his tips helped me a lot and I started winning and winning. The Sir Maximus, I used to one-trick Crustle from day one, having a 40% win rate. This is one of the Crustle nightmares that could have been in your games at one point. Live was tough, solo queue was tougher. That is until I met Dat Boy Muck, started taking notes, tips and tricks on gameplay and game mechanics. Shortly after, I hit Masters for the first time. You hear this a ton. Someone mentioned Gotlu. There are a lot of great creators out there, and I think that's one of the best ways to get good at this game. See people who are playing a lot, consistently do well, have good matches, and start to emulate some of their best practices. From Tron Camphor, and I've seen this a lot, I can't win every game, but I might as well try. Changing to a positive mentality helped me immensely. It's true, there are some matches in Pokemon Unite that are absolutely unwinnable. The deck is stacked against you, an ally's AFK, whatever it is. But doing the best you can and noticing what you could have done better is a huge factor. I've seen a lot of people mention sort of this thought process that I can't control everything, but I can control what I do and what I contribute. I had a match on stream yesterday, actually on our members only stream, where I played an amazing game and our team just didn't win. We made it felt like the right calls. We had a few moments that we could improve on. And at the end of the match, Ray just like the phenomenal lucky out of nowhere moment, 4 enemies down. They somehow get it with like a Hail Mary crazy almost nothing moment, right? And I walked away feeling like, look, I couldn't win that game. I did everything I could. I played my heart out. I tried. I was having fun. We took Ray with a monstrous advantage, but we just couldn't get it in that moment. And that's okay. And there were probably a couple things we could have done a little bit better too. I think it's important to just remember you can't win every game, but what you can do is you can notice whether or not you put the right processes in place to win. Did we do the right thing in that moment? Yeah, I think we did. We just got phenomenally unlucky, and that's okay. From the Dremor, this is one I loved. I think not only playing a Pokemon that suits your playstyle, but understanding its strengths and weaknesses. Better to be cracked on a non-meta Pokemon than terrible on a meta Pokemon. Oh man, is this true? I really think that players do, if they are really, really good at a Pokemon, even if that Pokemon is mid, they're going to provide so much more value than trying to play the flavor of the week thing that is apparently amazing right now. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes Pokemon are crazy good, and having them is a huge advantage. You know, Charizard, Ceruledge right now, Blaziken. If you can play these well, your team is going to do very well because of that. But if you're really good on Azumarill, and not just someone who plays a lot of Azumarill, if you understand how all the moves work together, if you understand how to last hit, if you get how to get a great level advantage on your opponents, how to use your Unite move to isolate enemy carries and take them down, if you are playing like that, your Azumarill is going to be better than 90% of the Blazikens in the game. I think it's really important starting to understand what your Pokemon does. What do your plus moves do? What's the new thing that unlocks for you when you hit level 11? What is your Unite move actually best used for? Is it for, you know, diving an opponent and trying to pick up a KO on their Alolan Ninetales? Is it actually something you want to use later in a fight? Do you want to use it in the midst of everything to displace the enemy? It's really important to know how your Pokemon work. It's so huge. I love this thought process because yes, who cares what's meta? If you're really good with something, especially if you have 3 or 4 Pokemon, ideally that's what you want, that you're really good with, so much more important. From Boo Lover, took the time to learn the macro aspects of the game, especially regarding the time on farm and objectives. Helped me build a game plan throughout the game besides just looking for opponents to kill or not get killed by. KO. This is Pokemon here. And that's so true. I think once you start to understand, oh, I KO'd an objective, in 2 minutes that objective will be back. I know when the birds spawn. I know when we're going center. I know how fast I need to get back to the center area to get my jungle rotation. All of these things are huge, and you'll see good players, they're back right when that blue buff spawns. And boom, they're there immediately, they clear it, and then they're right back to doing something useful for the team. I think this is extremely important. While I don't think you need to memorize all the timers for everything, having a good idea of when important moments in a match happen it's huge. It's very, very big. And I talk about this a lot personally, knowing when to time your Unites around that. Making sure you have a Unite at Ray, making sure you're with your team and you're using your Unite moves. It's very important. This one from Rin I loved. My playstyle changed when I started viewing myself as farm. This mindset helped me play less aggressively, since not getting carelessly and repeatedly KO'd is also a way to deny my opponent's farm. And I bet a few people talk about this too. There is something to be said about just not feeding the enemy. You know, some players will get KO'd for stacks over and over and over and over again, and then all of a sudden their opponent's level 7 and they're level 4 and they're going, what happened? We're getting absolutely dominated here. Well, yeah, you ran into them head first 5 times in a row. It's important to try to figure out, how do I not get KO'd and how do I provide value for the team while I'm doing that, right? Because you don't want to play scared where you're doing nothing, but at the same time, you don't want to be giving up a ton of free experience to your opponents, especially if you're a high level carry on your team. Now, if you're a defender or supporter, this is not irrelevant, but less relevant, because if anyone on the team is going to go down, it should be you. The lowest level the lowest level non-carry on your team should be the one who sacrifices themselves in a team fight. But in general, this is a great way to think about it. You are also farm on the map. don't get farmed by your opponents. This is one I thought was really interesting from the lad that knows stuff. Went from a 49% win rate to a 70.2% win rate this season, and I credit that at least partially to waiting until at least post Rayquaza to vote for a forfeit. This is 100% right. Yes, there are some games, like if you have an AFK or something like that, I understand moving on. And I understand surrender voting when a match is over. But until Ray is down, your team has a shot to win this thing. I would continue to fight. It's also going to get you good at some of the late game stuff that you won't deal with until Rayquaza is actually off the map. There are plenty of games where the team that doesn't get Rayquaza can win the match. There are plenty of games where you're behind, but you know what? Someone lands a killer Unite move at Ray and it changes everything. I love this tip. From Hurricane Tyrone, as a solo queue player who normally sits around 54% win rate, I'm at 65 this season. The main thing I figured out is simply get off the game when I get tilted, and also understanding that when my team doesn't have supports or defender, you can't play as aggressively since I won't be getting any healing or CC. The big thing here is stopping when you are tilted. I've seen so many people mention this, and honestly, it's such great advice. If you're tilted out of your mind, you are not going to play the match well. I think this is so important to recognize, hey, I'm freaking out, I'm not having a good time, I'm pinging my ally. You know the moment where you feel it. You feel like your blood pressure rises, you're going crazy in that moment. You feel it in your chest. Your team loses another Ray. You start cussing out the Gardevoir on your side. And it was the Gardevoir's fault, by the way. But it doesn't matter. You're done. You're cooked. And you should take a break. You really, really should. Even if you're streaming, Jake. Here from Yusef Montessor, when I stopped one-tricking a certain Pokemon and started adapting to what the team needs. Beautiful. Yes, especially when you get into Masters and you're playing Draft, like start picking things that work well for your team. And if you have a lot of Pokemon on your roster, start picking the specific one that you think is going to work best. Like Clefable's pretty dang good, but it's really good when you have a few Pokemon that you know are going to want to brawl and also aren't going to be like a million miles away from you, right? Like Clefable with Zoroark on your team, that Zoroark's off doing its own thing. That's more of a comfy game, right? But Clefable, when you have Outrage Dragonite on your team, oh, baby. Mwah, that's chef kissing their fingers right there. From Oakage, just came to give a like and a comment. Now my win rate's better already. You hear that, everyone? Leave a comment. Hit that like button. Subscribe. All the YouTube things. It makes you better instantly. From Dominic Tram, teammates are what I changed. And this is so true. It's fully true. Look, if you're good at the game and you're in a 5-stack, your win rate will be the highest possible, right? If you're good at the game and you're in a trio, that will be the next highest possible you can achieve, duo, then solo. There's no question that having more good players in a match will lead to more wins, more things you can control. When you're in a trio, honestly, most of the losses or wins are dictated by your squad. Again, there are some games that are just absolutely crazy and you're paired with 2 other players who are truly throwing the match and there's not a lot you can do, but you control 60% of your team's roster. You're able to pick a carry, you're able to pick a supporter, you're able to pick a defender. You can dictate the comp of your team as a trio. Your win rate should be pretty decent as a trio because you control the match. And this is huge. If you start playing with friends, if you start playing with people who are even reasonably good, your win rate is going to shoot up. From the Mad Gav, you have to know when to be Floyd and when to be Tyson. Obviously, we're talking about Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson here, I have to assume. Or we could be talking about Tyson Foods, which I believe makes delicious deli meats. But I think we're talking about the idea that sometimes you need to slip the enemy, counterpunch. Other times, you need to know when to go in and go crazy. And this is something that I think is going to depend on starting to get the game sense of where your opponents are with their Unite moves and where your team is with yours. So you'll see people get a massive team fight win at like 2 minutes 45 seconds, but what happens a lot of the time is you see them blow a ton of Unite moves for it. If you've watched me on stream, you'll definitely see moments where the enemy team is throwing an insane amount of Unite moves at like 3 minutes, like 2:45, somewhere in that range. And I'm trying to back up, but in general, I'm okay with getting KO'd. I'm okay with getting KO'd. I'm okay with losing that fight. What I'm not going to do in return is Unite, because in that moment, I recognize This isn't the fight. This isn't actually where we need to go Tyson right now. I need to be a little more Mayweather. This is a great tip that I'm using in my own way. From Rosander, such a huge factor for me was farming to catch up on levels. An extra level or 2 can do wonders. This is so true. Otherwise, I pay even more attention to the enemy mistakes to figure out possible weak points. Also, I improved in following my role's specific tasks. The big thing I want to call out here is the farming. I think that's so important. A lot of players don't recognize when it's time to fight and time to farm. They just kind of run head first into an opponent's goal zone constantly looking for fights. But there are so many moments where you need to be clearing your side of the map, at least looking for all the experience you can. A lot of games come down to Rayquaza, and what matters when you head towards Rayquaza is which team is bigger and stronger, and you get there by farming. So if you don't have a Unite move, if you're level 8 and you're waiting for a big break point so you can evolve, take a moment, farm up, get some of this experience off the map so the next time you run into the enemies, you're actually able to put up a strong fight. And there are a ton of great comments, but I'm gonna leave you with one final one from Jade here. For me, it's being more confident in your plays, following through with them. Yeah, I think that's huge. It's putting everything together, taking everything that you've learned, all the things that you're considering inside of a match, and when you go, I think it's time to go on Ray, that's time. It is, except for you, Razorleaf Decidueye, but it's time. You know it. There are 3 enemies down. This is your best shot. Go for it. Be confident. Try. Afterwards, you can dissect what happens, but when you're in it, try to make the best decision in the moment and commit to it. Thank you all so much for all your responses. I really appreciate it. Shout out to G Fuel for sponsoring this video. You can get a discount on G Fuel using my code below. I love you all, and I will see you all next time. We did it.